Okay, and starting with the Rebels, the most important thing that's probably been added to the submod so far is the Rebel Venator. This has been a very highly discussed topic on the AOTR Discord, and it's been like debated a lot of times whether this ship should be added into the game, but it's mainly been just completely denied by the developers of the original mod because it's just a little bit too ludicrous for the type of game that the AOTR modders are trying to go for. Luckily, the sub-mod has been trying to add in a lot of Clone Wars units, and other units have been kind of just slightly too ludicrous to be added to the game, as well as some other units that have been or are going to be added to the game, just haven't been, and also a lot of units that they decided to add in that the AOTR devs are also going to add in sooner or later. Yeah, this is a pretty powerful ship, very good flagship, not the best ship to put on the front lines because it can handle itself pretty well, but once it gets into the firepower of, say, a Golan platform, it can crumble pretty quickly, which is why you usually want to back it up with the fleet. Of course, the Venator is a battle carrier, which means it does come with an awful lot of fighters, but oftentimes, like I said, it can't really withstand itself against, say, Golan or even just an Imperial Star Destroyer, which is often why you want to back it up with other ships, such as the Arquitans, which is sort of like basically just a mini Venator in my opinion, where it has a lot of the same design, except just a lot less guns, a lot smaller. Faster? I don't know. I don't think it's very faster. It's a very good support ship for like backing up things like a Venator, or if you were the Empire, backing up things like a Star Destroyer. It just works as kind of just like a miniature sort of Corvette, frigate sort of thing. I don't know what to call it, but it works like I said, it just works as a very good support ship. And then you have the Acclamator too. This is a lot like the Venator and the Arquitans as well, except that it has a lot less firepower and has a lot more hangar capacity. As you probably know, this ship was originally designed to be more of a troop transport, and it was mainly like the very beginning of the Clone Wars, more of like a troop transport until it was eventually refitted with a lot more guns that the Republic put onto it. So yeah, it kind of makes sense that these aren't the most powerful ships in the game, but they definitely store quite a lot of fighters that you can deploy into combat. And then you have ships like the Pelto, which is supposed to be textured more like a rebel ship. If you're wondering about this, a lot of the rebel ships that I've been showing you are supposed to be like old Republic ships that have been refitted to fight against the Empire as Republic ships, and oftentimes they're repainted with a lot of rebel logos and rebel paint. I still think it looks like it has a candy wrapper on it. I don't know if that's just me, but once you see it, you can't unsee it. But yeah, definitely it still does look like a very cool ship. It's a lot like the Arquitans, where it's supposed to be sort of a support ship. I'm not sure if it has a repair ability for the Rebels. I think for some reason I got the... Did I get the Black Sun variant of this thing? I don't know. I can't say for certain if I got the Black Sun variant and the Rebel has like a repair ability. I'll just ask the developer or something and leave a note. And then we have the CR-70. I believe it's called the Charger? I'm not completely sure. This is one of the Republic's, sort of like the Corellian Corvette ship, where it's mostly anti-fighter, a very fast sort of ship that's supposed to support the main ships, keep the fighters and other light frigates and corvettes off the main ships while the main ships brawl out. Like I said, this thing is very good at anti-fighter, and probably, I haven't tested it yet, but probably can't stand very well when it's fired upon by something bigger, say maybe an Arquitans or I don't know, even an Imperial Star Destroyer, if that thing could actually hit this thing. Now for the rest of the Republic Rebel sort of ships, they have a couple more, such as Laddie Tyner's fleet, which is actually this one Venator that comes out and actually spawns in multiple Acclamators, Arquitances, and those CR-70 Chargers if I had one around here right now. But yeah, it's basically just this giant pocket fleet that you can send in that takes up a lot of pop cap, but all the units besides the Venator itself are actually free, so they're basically kind of like Garm Bel Implis, where you can send in those units to kind of block the enemy off. Another Republic Rebel sort of hero ship that they can have is the Morning Star, which is basically just another type of Venator, except it's kind of retrofitted to have this, let's just say, Death Beam. Yeah, Death Beam. It's basically what they call the SFA beam. I believe it's basically just like the SFAT beam, which is something that the Liberation originally had, except it's more like just amplified, where it does a lot of damage centralized, but it also does a bunch of splash damage, which means it basically does a ton of anti-fighter work and can destroy frigates really fast. The only downside is that it really takes a super long time to recharge, so yeah, you have to use it very wisely in battle. Now, unfortunately, there are some other ships that I cannot currently show off. Well, actually, there's only one big ship that I can't currently show off. That would actually be spawned on Mandalore. It's called the Vergator? I don't know how to pronounce it. It's basically just kind of like this big Mandalorian Star Destroyer that the Rebels can get. I am not currently sure of the lore behind it. I'm sure there is some lore behind it that I would be able to explain later on. So for our next ship that I'm showing off, we actually have the Alliance Assault Frigate Mark II. This is basically the Alliance's version of their own ship, which has basically just been this whole kind of hodgepodge together sort of ship, where it's just so many different types of and variants of ships that have been all kind of put together into one, and just kind of made to the best of their abilities to be a very good fighting sort of ship. It's still a lot like the Alliance Assault Frigate, where it's not super powerful in health standards, but it's very powerful in firepower. It's got a lot of different looks to it, kind of like the original Alliance Assault Frigate, but it's got a little bit more of a Mon Calamari look, where it's kind of organic, and then it has all these different wings on it. I myself am not a super big fan of the design, but I still think it'll be a pretty cool addition to the Rebel Alliance. And for the next ship, we actually have the Thantra Support Cruiser. This is basically the spiritual successor of the Hammerhead Corvette, where it's basically just has the same sort of design and same type of firepower, where it's a lot of forward-facing firepower, except it's a lot buffed. It's very buffed up. I believe it's a little bit faster with all its engines in the back. Basically the successor to the Hammerhead, except a lot more powerful than its older version. Now, I'm gonna say this now. There were two other Republic ships that I may or may not have forgotten about that I will be showing off in a second, but one of the more major ships that I definitely have to show off now is definitely the MC-75 Mon Calamari Battlecruiser. This is actually the ship that was shown off in the movie Rogue One, and it's sort of like this Mon Calamari ship, except it's got like this little extended bridge down here, and it's a lot. I don't know if it's like a little bit more powerful or what. It's got it's definitely more of like a missile variant of Mon Calamari cruisers. But honestly, in my testing of this ship so far, it seems like a lot like that, where it's more of like a missile ship. It's not the most powerful MC-7 or MC whatever variants of Mon Calamari cruisers, but it's definitely works as a very powerful ship. And it definitely works very well when you're using it in combat. Now for the last few ships I want to show off, the first of all, these are actually two heroes that have been, I believe, based off the developers of the game. I can't see the names. I know one's called like Wings and one's called something else. But they're basically these two old Republic captains of our Quinton ships that basically defected over to the Imperial, or not to the Imperials, over to the Rebel Alliance because they saw that, like they were very fond of the Jedi and saw that the Empire was forming and like got rid of a ton of the Jedi, so they basically just defected over to the early growing rebellion. So for these two ships, they're very similar to the Venator, but they both have their differences. For example, the Legacy, I believe this is the Legacy, right? Just want to make sure real quick. Yes, this is the Legacy. This is basically just like the Venator, except it's a little bit. It's not meant to be a carrier like the Venator was. It's basically meant more around firepower, shields, and hull strength. So it's definitely more of a supremacy sort of ship instead of like a fire support ship like the Venator is. As for the Valiant, I believe this one is actually just a lot like the Venator, except just kind of an upgraded version of the Venator, where it has the same amount of, not really the same amount of fighters, but very similar in the amount of firepower and fighters, except it's a little bit more buffed up, where I think it has a lot more armor and shield. And I believe that's actually the last of the Republic capital ships, so as of now, I am going to real quick move on to the Empire. Okay, for Empire ships, I'm actually going to try to do a lot of them all at once. And just see how well this goes. I'm going against the Hape, so they're probably going to see a lot of firepower going in the background, but just try to ignore that. For the first ship, I am actually going to be showing off the Raider Corvette. This is something that the that was actually shown off quite a lot in Star Wars Battlefront 2. It is going to be shown off a lot in Star Wars Squadrons, which is a game that's coming up very soon. And it's basically sort of like this, the Corvette of the Empire, where I believe it's kind of like an anti-fighter support ship, a lot like the Air Acquaintance, except I think it's a little bit more fighter-based. And there's a lot more stuff to it. Okay, so yeah, it seems to kind of fill that kind of just a support ship against the rebellion's different types of ships, like the frigates and corvettes, along with their fighter. It's just another Imperial frigate, pretty much, or Imperial corvette. I'm not sure what to classify it as. And for the next ship, we actually have the Prosecutor. I believe that's what this thing is called. Yeah, it's called the Prosecutor class Star Destroyer. It's basically like the Star Destroyer, except its ability. Well, let's just say it's a little bit like the Tector Star Destroyer, where it basically has no hangar bay, and that hangar bay is actually replaced with a lot more armor and a little bit less shields for a lot more armor. It's kind of just like a downgraded Tector is the best way to describe it. And it's got quite a lot of heavy guns, so I definitely say it's a little bit more. Oh, they just. Why is it? I keep trying to show off these ships, and immediately like. How do I... So yeah, here it is again. And like I said, it doesn't have any fighters, and it has less shields, but I believe it has a lot more armor than a normal Star Destroyer and a lot more firepower. Although not quite as much armor as the Tector Star Destroyer. At least that's what I think it is. Now for the next ship, I'm going to bring in this one, the Predator class Star Destroyer. And this one is the one I'm very unsure about. This one I haven't really seen all that much about. I don't think it has a hangar bay, but I think it's more of like a missile ship. Yeah, it kind of looks like it. Either that or it's... Oh. Ooh. Ooh, is it like a... It's like one of those ships where it's like... I don't know. I don't know much about this ship, to be perfectly honest. It looks really cool, for sure. It's got a little bit of an animation where like you press this... and it like opens up, and maybe when it does that, it allows it to fire like very, very powerful shots off or something. I'm not sure, but it just looks amazing. I'm gonna put it up against something like the space station that's up here real quick. So yeah, I'm just gonna send it forward, and let's just bring in the Victory and the Venator up here just to kind of give it a little bit of support up here. I'm just gonna go up to this bulk cruiser here, and I'm just gonna click deploy. And then I just love this little animation where it just kind of pops out, and then fire at that. Ooh, yeah, now all the batteries are firing at it. Ooh, that's just so cool. So cool. Direct fire on that bulk cruiser's engines. Oh wow, that's a lot of missiles. Ooh, that's coming from this. This thing has a lot of missiles on it. Maybe that's what the deploy thing does. Gives it a lot of missiles. Raider Corvette. Yeah, these new ships give this fleet a lot of firepower, if you haven't figured that out yet. And they're a little bit overpowered, but they definitely, they used to be super overpowered, but they've definitely been balanced out a lot more. I believe the Rebel heroes definitely need to be a lot more balanced, but as for the Empire, it seems pretty balanced, I think. It's like, the ships are definitely expensive, and they're going to take a long time to build in the future. I've just, rushed out. If this were a normal campaign, I'd pretty much be screwing myself over at this point. But yeah, just look at the missiles that this thing fires off. Maybe that's what this thing is. Like just a giant missile boat. And now for the final ship that you've already seen multiple times, the Secutor class Star Destroyer. This is actually a Republic era ship that in this, it's basically like the lore-wise, it's basically been brought over. It was just kind of left over from the Republic era. That's what a lot of the ships are meant to be in this. Like, a lot of the Republic era ships that the Rebellion has and the Empire has aren't really ships that were actually built by them. More along the lines of ships that were left over from the age of the Republic, and that they just happen to be using because they're ships. They're free ships. Might as well use them. But basically, the Secutor Star Destroyer is supposed to be this giant sort of super Star Destroyer ship for the Republic, and if you know what the mod Thrawn's Revenge is, it kind of makes these things seem a little bit overscaled. Compared to the Venator, these things are massive. Compared to this Venator over here, but yeah, that's the main capital ship that they mainly used in the Republic era. So compared to the Secutor, the Secutor just looks massive. And then you compare it to something like a regular ISD, it starts to look a little bit smaller as you kind of go along, and then you start to get into stuff like ISD 2s, and then you bring out stuff like the Executor. Super Star Destroyer, and it looks super tiny. But yeah, the Secutor is more meant to be another capital ship, a lot like the ISD-1, where it has a lot of hangar capacity, a lot of shields, a lot of firepower, etc., etc. And it's basically just supposed to be this sort of leftover Republic ship that basically just acts as an early Star Destroyer that you get. It's kind of like, I think I would consider it an upgraded ISD-1. That's the best way to describe it. The last ship I actually wanted to show off that has been added, more along the lines of capital ships, is actually Inferno Squadron's, what are they called? Those, Raider Corvette. The, Inferno Squadron's Raider Corvette, which is kind of like just an upgraded Raider Corvette. If you don't know what Inferno Squadron is, it's basically the squadron from Star Wars Battlefront 2. It's like this elite commando squadron or special forces squadron. And, what it is, it's like there's this group of 3 people that also own this Raider Corvette, and they all do these little special assignments. Along with the Corvus, I just remember what that was called. Yeah, that's what this Raider Corvette is called, the Corvus. But Inferno Squadron also gets the 3 members that can actually go down to the surface of planets and help you fight. And like I said earlier, I won't be showing off ground forces in this battle, but that's just something really important to know about this unit. But yeah, I'd say those are probably all the most important things. I'm sorry I didn't really get to show off the BS all that much. I probably could have just bought them and gotten them into the battle, but at this point I'm just starting to run out of patience at this point. Ooh, actually, while I'm doing this, I can turn my face cam back on. Hey, I'm back. Hello. But anyway, yeah, I'd just say that's all the major capital ships that have been added to the game. And in the future, I do plan on making a separate video about all the new ground units that have been added to the game. Maybe going a little bit more into detail about showing off all the Black Sun units. But for now, that's going to be it. And oh, now that I'm seeing this, I can see my perfect opportunity to edit in my own custom splash screen because that's not been added to the game yet. Haha. I really hope I did that. I'm not making myself look like an idiot. Oh, I probably should have just done that. But yeah, if you did like the video, please like and subscribe because it really does help out the channel. Hit the notification bell if you never want to miss another video. And like I said, I will be trying to get back to this and possibly in the future be showing off a lot more into detail about all the different units. But for now, this has just been kind of a brief overview and what I believe is what I believe is what the units are and all the details. That sentence made absolutely no sense. But anyway, that was the sub-mod, and I will most likely be showing off more units in the future, and as always, goodbye.